So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and like the one or two non-run-on sentence version of what your organization does.
No promises.
Hi, my name is Stella. I am the education assistant at Barrington Stage Company, but primarily I work for Playwright Mentoring Project, and we are a theater program for teens. We meet for 6 months out of the year, and we work on community building and conflict resolution.
I'm Monica Sinclair. I'm with OLLI, which is the OSHA Lifelong Learning Institute, which is an organization for, I guess, older adults to learn in a non-stressful organization and to socialize and meet other people in your community.
I'm Ellen Quabier, and I am never going to sit in the car with Monica again because I am also from OLLI, and we discussed it, and she said everything I was going to say.
That's the nature of our relationship.
Which is true. We'll get into that, but that is true.
You should have sat the other way around.
Well,
No,
had I
never had
known.
anything to say.
I am Emma Lenski. I use she and they pronouns. I'm the Director of Education and Outreach at Berkshire Pride. Berkshire Pride creates safe spaces and opportunities for LGBTQ folks across Berkshire County, including the yearly festival and parade that we're most well known for.
My name is Jess Vecchia. I use she, her pronouns. I am the co-founder and director of Roots Rising. And we have 3 core programs. So we run the Pittsfield Farmers Market. We run youth crews. So we hire and pay teenagers to work on farms and food pantries and at our own market. And we just bought a property here in Pittsfield to build out our farm and education center.
Yay. Good for you.
My name is Julie MacDonald. I'm the program director of Living in Recovery. We're a peer recovery support center that is by design there to help support people in recovery, seeking recovery, and anyone even impacted by addiction or substance use disorder, which is everybody here today, right, in some way, shape, or form. We exist to give people an opportunity to experience things without alcohol and drugs around, whether it's artistic things, whether it's support groups, whether it's playing pool and darts. It's just a whole plethora of things that we offer to our community members.
Excellent. So I might only have time to ask one question because the one question is going to be this. I'm going to start with Julie because we already chatted about this bit. How did you see community play out in primary trust, and how does that kind of reflect in your world of community building?
Okay, thanks.
And we'll go.
And I'm going to try not to cry or give spoilers or anything. So in the play, it was really interesting to me because it was very clear to me, because I'm in that environment all the time, the damage that's done when people don't have community and how they often don't realize it until they find community. So the main character, when he was without community and feeling the pain and seeing how he was reaching and striving to create his own sense of community and connection. And I believe that substance use disorder is a direct result of not having the type of connection that we need, whether it's what happened or whether it's because we create it that way, right? So as the play progressed and moved through it, it was really like watching a lot of our members go through the experience themselves of when they step into community, get the support that they need, how it impacts not just I don't have to drink or use or whatever my process addiction is, or I don't have to feel alone, but it impacts every area of their life, right? And again, I don't want to do spoilers, but the culmination of the changes throughout the show and how it played out like that little trickle in the water, the pebble in the water, and how it plays out into the other areas of our lives. And I see that every day. And sometimes I forget that I see it every day. And this show really helped to remind me of the depth of trauma and loneliness that people experience in the midst of addiction. And by that, I also mean people impacted by addiction.
Jess?
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to think how am I going to say this without spoilers too.
I
You're
know.
making this
I feel
difficult.
like we should just give spoilers.
Yeah.
Brenda said
No, it's okay. A lot of the work that we do is around building community. So, for me, those themes of loneliness, of isolation, and then on the other side of connection and what happens when we have support, when we have connection. We talk a lot about the age of loneliness that we're living in, right? That has been happening for a while. It was exacerbated by the pandemic. There are so many contributing factors to why that is. They also say this is the saddest generation of teenagers ever recorded in history. There are lots of factors in that, and we really believe that the points of connection and the community building that can exist is an answer to that. So we also work really hard to build safe spaces for our young people, for our full community. We talk a lot about third spaces, these places outside of work, outside of home, which sometimes have become fewer and far between, right? And so the farmer's market is a third space, is a third place, where people that you don't need to know anybody, right? It is free, it is open to the public, you can come there, there's live music, Monica's husband sometimes plays, and it's not even about necessarily buying the groceries, but it is about connecting to the farmers who grew the food, right? Like there's just points of connection built into that kind of space, and it's a way that we come together, and so that it was a lot of what I was thinking about.
Yes, not giving spoilers. I think, especially when it comes to third spaces, right? I think that's something that Berkshire Pride really strives to do in the community. And we started with our festival and our parade, which are free and open to the public, and have just continuously grown over the years. We started as a super tiny festival that, the 5 or 6 of us who started it really just put our own money in to make it happen. There was maybe like 50 people the first year that attended. And this past year we had around 3,500 people attend the festival, and we had over 200 vendors. And of course, if you go up to the booths, you have to pay for things most of the time, but attending the event itself is free. And so just, being around like-minded folks as well, right? People who are supportive of the LGBTQ community, if not part of the LGBTQ community, can really go a long way as well into seeing yourself represented, right? And so the festival is one of those spaces, but we also try to offer year-round programming. So since establishing as our own nonprofit, we've been trying to offer groups and just one-off events or field trips for the LGBTQ community to come and attend throughout the year, especially in the winter months, right? Because there's so little activity or third spaces during the winter months for folks. And so trying to create that space is definitely something we've been working on. And something that you said also gave me a thought, and now I lost it. But yeah, seeing the play and seeing, the importance of having that third space, right? Like even, we can get into the substance use aspect of it, but having the third space of going to what's it called, Wally's, was really important for him. And then, as he developed more community as well, he found other third spaces, but
Phew, okay. OLLI, as many of you know, deals with a different type of population for the most part, although I think we can relate to everything that all of you have said. But our mandates are basically adult education and also socialization, so very much a part of community, but in a different sense. Because we deal for the most part with an older population, many of our members have experienced loss sometimes, and not to say that younger people don't, but have experienced loss in many different ways. And some of us come to the Berkshires not knowing anyone, Actually, Monica and I met when we were at a panel almost immediately after I joined, and we've been, what's the expression, tied at the waist ever since, including today, because here we are. And I start sentences, she finishes them, that's what she meant, or she starts and I finish. But the point is, my husband and I moved here almost 25 years ago, and we didn't know anyone. And joining OLLI gave us an opportunity to meet other like-minded people. And I'll let Monica talk about some of the things we offer, but the point is, it was people of a certain age for the most part, although we do have younger people, just saying, and you're all welcome, just saying. But it was meeting like-minded people and just feeling like we were part of a community, which was really wonderful, and we are still part of that community. On you.
You said everything so well, but I mean, just a couple of things I think about is that a lot of OLLI members are retired, and retirement is a little bit like losing a job. Well, it is like losing a job, and you lose the community, the workspace, all of that goes with it, and in many cases you move to a different location. And you know, that's so it can be very disruptive, and OLLI is a really great space, I guess you could use the word, to find yourself again. And Ellen said, as well as the sort of core part of the organization, which is learning, and I have to say in a very non-stressful environment. You don't have to do tests or homework or any of this sort of stuff, because most of us have been through that enough. But we also do social events. You're very good at organizing that sort of thing. We have field trips, outings. We had a group that went to see the eclipse earlier this year. We have theatre groups. We have a lot of things like that. And then we also have what we call, in a fairly clumsy way, shared interest groups, which are small subgroups of people that have the same interests. So we have a murder mystery book club and a downhill skiing group, or where we met was the French conversation group. Don't ask why.
You can ask, but we'll tell you later.
And you know, so there's a lot of different spaces like that. And the other thing is, again, for people that have maybe lost a partner, we have a group called Socializing Singles, which is not a dating service, but gives people who are maybe newly single a way of getting out and doing things that maybe they would hesitate to do by themselves if they've always been part of a couple or something, part of a family. So it's, and I think the more we evolve, the more we develop a lot of these kind of thoughts, and it's, it feels very positive to me for people in all sorts of situations. All yours.
Oh, okay. It's kind of surreal to hear that question, sitting on the stage, not in a circle, which is what we do at the beginning of PMP every week.
What is PMP?
Playwright Mentoring Project. It's a theater program.
I want everybody else to know. I built a very strong community through PMP, through Playwright Mentoring Project, myself, and I came back and worked. And it's quite wonderful to see the show Primary Trust and to know that this is where it happened. He walks into Wally's and finds this community that you never would have expected, and there's no spoilers in that because there are all these twists and turns, and you'll just have to see the show to find out how that happened. But it's very similar to how most kids or teenagers who walk into Playwright Mentoring Project feel at the beginning. You know, they walk in, they don't know anybody, they're new, or you know, they've been in Pittsfield their whole life but feel like they don't have any friends who really understand them or any adults that really get them. So they come into our program and we say, hey, you're okay to be here. You be who you are, and we accept you, and we'll be your community. And every year I watch as that community grows and grows. And in a way, you know, Kenneth suffers a loss, and he has to find his way through this world by himself. And I feel like in a third space, it's beautiful to be able to provide that for them. that third space, that place where they, no matter what's happening outside, in our room, you are beautiful, you can do whatever you try to, as long as, you're willing. And I feel like Kenneth being willing to find that space, even though he's scared, is one of the beautiful things about building community. You can find that community with us.
Thank you. So the Ebony Booth, the playwright who wrote Primary Trust, put into her script not a lot of specifics, but one of her key things is that it takes place in a time before cell phones. And I think a lot when I see this play is, we're talking about trying to sell this play. It's very hard to talk about it without giving things away. 'Cause it's like, come see a play about a very lonely man. It's not the best pitch for this play. That's why it's not on the posters. But it ultimately is about a very lonely man at a time before cell phones, before where he found community connection was that thing that's in my pocket right now, where community connection was built between two human beings facing each other. And then I think so much about how this play came at just the perfect time at the tail end of the peak of the pandemic. It is a play about loneliness and isolation, where we all just came out of a moment of loneliness and isolation. And I know all of your organizations pivoted quite a bit during the pandemic. And OLLI went all online, PMP went all online, you got them all Chromebook, it was chaos. The market went online, and for a while out of our production center. But how do you see how community building has changed? Positive spin. How has the pandemic and having to go online and not be able to come back in person, how has it changed or grown your organizations in a positive way, having all this just communally experienced being separated from each other? What good has come out of the pandemic is what I'm asking for your group. Anyone can jump in.
I want to say one of the things we found was we found a lot of people that wanted to join our OLLI from all over the country. Instead of being purely local, we landed up with members in Hawaii, and I think it certainly opened my eyes to things you could do in different locations. Some of those members have gone away as life picked up again, but a lot of them have stayed.
A lot of them.
There's at least one guy I know who lives down in Jacksonville who has never been to the Berkshires, and I don't think has any intention of ever coming to this part of the world, but he's not only an active member in a number of classes, he's in a number of shared interest groups, and he's lecturing as well, he's teaching. So it's like, yeah, this wouldn't have happened without the pandemic, to have that geographic outreach. And I think it also, well, you can probably address this more, because it's something we've had to make a conscious effort about. We found we could still do a lot of the learning online, but the socialization aspect was a lot more difficult when we were always on Zoom. So I don't know if you can address that.
Monica's pivoting back to me because although she brought me into the committee, so you see this is another one of those things, but I currently co-chair the Member Services Committee, so I'm all about bringing members together and keeping them as part of OLLI. We currently have, just for Berkshire OLLI, over 1,500 members, just for Berkshire OLLI, of which 80% are local, but 20% live outside of the area. Technically, Sandersfield, where I live, is outside of 50 miles, so I could qualify, but the point being, I think what I'm feeling is not only what Monica said, that we do have people who are outside our local area, who are very much involved with OLLI on a different levels, but I think for me, and I'm feeling this from others, it's made that getting back together for those of us that are local much more special. That is, we missed having that contact, not necessarily physically, but just being in the same space, being able to talk face to face. We missed that. So the pandemic, if nothing else, has taught us the importance of being in a community, of being able to see people, being able to talk to people, being able to argue with people, because yes, OLLI people do argue, and that's part of our strength, is that we can share different opinions. So, and doing special events. We're more involved now in the socialization part than we were before. We're making that a priority, put it a different way. So we are coming here to see this play. That is to say that there's going to be a theater group from OLLI coming on the 6th of October, as you probably know. And as Monica mentioned, we do other types of special events. We were at Tanglewood, we were at the Pillow, and people seem to enjoy that. It gives them a reason to be together and to talk about things that are important to them. So that's what I would say, is the pandemic, at least for me, in terms of OLLI, has put an emphasis on community, even more so than we had before.
I would like to go next. So related to that, it's interesting because with Berkshire Pride, we serve such a wide range of ages, right? We collaborate with a group called the Berkshire Rainbow Seniors as well, that is, I forget the age cutoff, but I also don't want to offend anyone who doesn't consider themselves a senior by saying a younger age. But I feel like the cutoff is 60, possibly, for the Rainbow Seniors, and so that it's a group of older adults who identify as LGBTQ in some capacity. And so we collaborate a lot with them, and then we also, of course, have folks who are interested in Berkshire Pride events and volunteering with Berkshire Pride who are also older. But then we also have folks who are in their teens or tweens even, right, who are accessing Berkshire Pride. We have a teens and tweens group that meets weekly, that started as an after-school program this school year, so it just started a few weeks ago. That has about 5 or 6 kids who have been regularly attending so far. And so we do have that age variety, which is interesting because everyone, of course, has different experiences with technology and whether they help to build community or they make it worse, right? And definitely during the pandemic, the height of the pandemic, that we reached a lot more people, even just within Berkshire County, because of moving things onto Zoom, right, in terms of, the lack of access to transportation in Berkshire County can make it really difficult if you're living in Sandusfield, for example, to get to events that happen in Pittsfield if you don't have your own car, basically, right, or someone
have
who
no
can
choice.
drive you, yeah. And so a lot, especially with the younger folks, a lot of people don't have access to things that happen in Pittsfield, or maybe they live in North County and it's hard to get to Pittsfield or hard to get to South County or whatever, right? And so I think that created a lot of spaces for folks, moving things online during the pandemic in a lot of ways, and especially for younger folks. My other role outside of Pride is as a private practice clinician for LGBTQ kids and teens. And the vast majority of them found more community during the height of the pandemic because they found so many online LGBTQ spaces, and they related to other creators on TikTok and other social medias, and maybe that helped them figure out that they identified as LGBTQ, or maybe any other sort, like neurodivergent, ADHD, autistic, whatever, right? So they're coming to terms with these identities in a different way because they're finding these communal spaces and they're finding people that they relate to that they might not be able to in real life IRL, right? Meeting people face to face can be more intimidating, especially for the younger folks if they're used to accessing spaces online. And so, yeah, I think that was the thing I was going to pivot off of before, was when you said that it's like the saddest generation, or I forget how you had worded it. It's interesting because I think that's true, and I also think that they just have more access to resources related to mental health, right? So then they have more terminology to express how they're feeling, and maybe they feel more comfortable expressing how they're feeling, and maybe their parents are more supportive of them expressing how they're, like, who knows, right? So maybe teenagers have always been sad, but haven't had the terminology to express that, right? You said don't go on tangents, and I said no promises. Because I can do that for a while, but to condense what I was trying to say is that I think it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Where like it definitely can create more spaces online and also make people feel more isolated in a lot of ways, right? And once we got back together in person again, it was really like, oh, we took this for granted for so long, right? And now we have this opportunity to share physical space with each other, share a meal, right? Like we should be really valuing that more.
And I think I just want to connect between, so PMP, a player mentoring project, was able to pivot online, oddly. It was an odd experience, but I think Jess, like, we were able to figure out how to make theater online on this end of the room. But you have teams who have hands in soil.
Yeah.
How did you pivot, and what did it feel like when you came back out of it? What was it like working with the teams where you're able to get back to actually be able to be together?
Yeah, you know, we did, our teens for the whole year of 2020 were not together in person. So we did some support work online. When we came back together as a crew, it was a huge adjustment for all of us. I think, you know, we were masked still in 2021. We weren't able to provide transportation for a while. We have a 15-passenger van. You know, not everyone was feeling safe and comfortable. And so we had real limitations that second year when we went back in person. Transportation is a major barrier. Transportation is a key piece of what makes our youth crews work, is that we provide that. So it limited the access to the teens that weren't able to participate. They had to provide their own transport to our work sites. You know, we really increased a lot of sort of the wellness and well-being work that we were doing. So, you know, we also start all of our days in circles. Circles are like a core piece of Roots Rising. We do a mind-body check-in when we arrive, and we've always done that. And we do a closing circle where we do our rose and our thorn of the day, our highlight, our low light. So, you know, we've always been doing those kind of check-ins, but we started to increase, you know, we during the summer now we offer yoga classes, and so there's just like a lot more built in. Our educational workshops have shifted gears based on like what the teens are asking for or what we're seeing their needs are. So really bringing in those pieces of the puzzle to make it a more holistic program and to really be adapting to the changing needs. Because my goodness, it's like a whole different world, I feel like, even now than it was pre-pandemic.
So how has PMP changed since we would bring them all back together in a room, not in a Zoom room?
It was interesting figuring out, because, you know, when we first came back, there was distancing and masks. It was interesting trying to create theater, trying to create improv with space and masks. But the beautiful thing about our program is that we are a brave space for them. We are a place where they can come and just be who they are, and some of them can't do that at home. So like you said, that third space, it's home or school when everything was home or on the computer. It was very hard for our participants. They did it, they were rock stars. But to come back, that really joyous first PMP Fest in the BQ, to really see everybody together and to feel so comfortable and confident, because you can see the difference between a person on a screen in a box living that life to coming in person, alive, feeling the magic of theater, the magic of togetherness. It was pretty wonderful, I will say, personally, to come back from a screen. But they needed that space. They need a place to be themselves without, you know, parental or other adult expectations or demands.
Julie, speaking of a third space, third place, since the pandemic, you have a home, a center. What do you call it?
It's a center. We call it our center, Peer Recovery Support Center, and it is home. And I reference it that way. Like if people have been gone for a little while, they come back, I always say welcome home. You know, so I started at Living in Recovery kind of mid-pandemic-ish still. Living in Recovery closed down during the pandemic. And then when they opened back up, they had to have a 6 feet. We could have no more than 10 people in there. I still wasn't there at that point. And then so I think it was like late 2021 where I started helping or whatever, and then took over. But since then we've moved a couple of times also. And in many ways it's like starting anew, right? So I have an ambivalent relationship with the ease of technology and connection, and also because for people in recovery or seeking recovery, isolation is deadly. And so, and at the same time, conversely, the internet itself, our Facebook page, you know, and all of that actually brings people to us that wouldn't normally come to us. So apparently, our morning musings that we have every morning, it's kind of like a circle, right? But we do it live on Facebook. And I've had more people come up to me that I've never seen in my life. Like, oh my God, I see you on morning musings. And so we've actually gotten people to then come in for the yoga, gong sound healing, or one-on-one sessions if they're struggling as a person connected to someone with an addiction. We have these, and we live stream our open mic nights and different things like that. So people get exposure because of it. So I think that that's good. But as a person in recovery myself, I know how dangerous isolation is and how just the character survived, right, through whatever they created, no spoilers, within themselves to not feel alone. For me, as a person in recovery, I can get into such delusional thinking when I spend too much time alone that it's very dangerous. And for people who are using drugs, it's very dangerous to be alone. It's life-threatening to be alone, right, and be using drugs. So even having access to the little pieces or just seeing whatever, living in recovery, just showing up, you know, sometimes it's putting that little seed, right, for people. And now we have, as you said, we have a vibrant home in the old Flatburger Society. Everyone is free to stop in and check it out. Everything we do is open to the public. It's not a closed-off community. So, and we have a stage. It's lovely. That's all. We don't want me getting on a tangent now.
Well, and I want to do a special thanks to Julie, who came and actually met with the cast because one of the two main coping mechanisms the main character uses, one of them is a spoiler, the other one is alcohol. So Julie graciously came and met with the cast and talked about using alcohol as a coping mechanism. It's actually one of my pet peeves with this play is when people try to promote it, they try to make like the concept of like, he likes Mai Tais, oh, let's put Mai Tai on the poster, let's make a joke about Mai Tai. I'm like, it's not a joke
Right.
what this character is doing and how those Mai Tais are a coping mechanism for him to get through past trauma. So it actually drives me crazy when people are like, Mai Tai. I'm like, it's just a fun name drink.
I love that you recognized that,
Yeah.
right? And said, hey, wait a minute, let's think about it.
Yeah, it's just a fun name drink that's also terrible. So we're going to open up to questions from the audience. There's two guidelines here at Barrington Stage, especially when I'm leading one of these. One is we just ask that you ask questions and not soapbox or grandstand or tangent like I'm doing right now. And the second thing is that sometimes people on the panel may share something personal about themselves. Just because they share something personal is not them opening up the door for you to dig further. So please just respect their boundaries. So with that, if we can get a little more house lights, because I'm blinded right now. If there's any questions from the audience, I can do that. Yes, right here, second row.
Hi, this question is for none of you.
Speak a little louder.
Probably you. We saw the play, and I'm here representing the 5 other people that I came with, and they said, would you ask the question? And I don't want, it's something technical about the play, and so I don't want to, again, it might be a spoiler. So is there someone that I can ask the question to after this is over?
That'd be me.
I will find
I will happily answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll just lie. You won't know.
We learned about the organizations, thank you. And Berkshire Pride, I really thank you for what you said. I'm interested in the nuts and bolts. How do you find somebody or you meet somebody who is going through isolation? How do you as an organization on a one-to-one deal with that? Or anger, or working out their problems in an unusual and non-acceptable way. How do you address that on a one-to-one? I know somebody can join online or something, but it's not the same thing as looking at somebody's face and facing the issues. So, did anybody address that?
May I? So I can't speak for anyone else, but I think I can speak for OLLI in saying that we don't purposely go out into other populations to seek out people who might, well, this is not exactly right. What I was going to say is we can sometimes identify people who have specific needs because one of the things that we do is we hold what's called a new member chat online, because again, we have 20% of our 1,500 who are across the country, but we have a new member chat at the beginning of each of our 4 to 5 semesters, depending on the year. And that is what it sounds like. It's online, it's a Zoom, but we are in a way face-to-face with people. And sometimes people have been very open with us, not only saying that they're new to an area, but they might mention that they lost their husband or wife within the year, or that they just are recovering from a serious illness, or whatever it might be. And just having that, I'll call it a one-on-one, it could be a 1-on-6 or a 1-on-12, you know, in the sense however many are on the Zoom, gives us, if we're listening, which is of course the key, if we're listening, an opportunity to try to put that person in touch with other of our 1,500 people who might be able to help them. So that's one way. The other way would be if we are in person at an event, and hopefully people will talk to each other, and again, that gives us an opportunity to make connections. But what I was starting to say originally is we are looking to become involved with some of our partner organizations, or have more partner organizations. So this was great because I now have 4 new friends, because Monica was already my friend. Well, 5, right? 5. But the point being that we are this year in particular reaching out to have other events where we meet with people from other populations, and hopefully that will give us an opportunity to address some of the issues you're mentioning. But we don't have specific issues around trauma that we would address.
So at Living in Recovery, you know, we are peer support, so we're not trying to be clinical or anything like that. However, many people having been through trauma or experiencing it, let me tell you, when you first stop using, you're really mad, right? So at least I was, I don't know. But first of all, we do offer one-on-one support to people if they feel that they need that. We have a plethora of different support type meetings, whether it's recovery based or feeling based. We do different things around the spirit of recovery with reading like a book, like we're doing the 4 Agreements, and seeing how does that apply to our lives. And so we're always, and there's always staff there as well as other peers, which is the most beautiful part, is it's not just a staff person saying, hey, I know what you can do about this, but it's another person saying, yeah, I've been there, man. Here's what I did, right? And we're also resource brokers. So if someone feels like they need more help, we have access to clinicians and other recovery places, or, you know, saying, hey, here's some names of therapists in the area. So we're always, you know, looking to learn more about resources. Katrina was our resource queen there, to be able to support people. And we have a lot of holistic wellness activities there as well, such as yoga, gong sound healing bath, meditation, Reiki, acupuncture, all sorts of things. So again, sometimes even those things can help release some of the emotional stuff going on or that one is experiencing. More than anything, we hold space.
I love the idea of a resource broker.
Yeah.
I've never heard that title before, but now I'm going to call myself.
I'm definitely going to adopt that term.
I just learned it at this job. It's a
love
word.
that.
It's a
Good
yeah.
word.
Yeah, at Berkshire Pride, we're definitely resource brokers. Berkshire Pride also has our own space for the first time since last summer, I think it was August of last year that we opened our own office space. It's a resource center. We're calling it the hub right now, not a Pride center, because calling it a center has to, I don't know, there's a lot more legal requirements with the city of Pittsfield, it seems like, if that's the case, but it is open to the public. And so we do provide resources for folks as well. We had one community member actually find out about us through a friend of a cousin of somebody, right? And got a ride through someone else that they knew because they don't have transportation, right? Got a ride to our office, just specifically looking for resources because they recently moved here and they were feeling isolated, and they're in their 20s and living at home with their parents who aren't supportive, right? And supportive of their identity of being LGBTQ. And so looking for resources for support in that way, but also for, you know, job searching, right? And are there organizations in the Berkshires that align with what they went to college for and also are accepting of LGBTQ folks because they've had previous experiences at jobs where they've been, you know, ridiculed or whatever, harassed at work based on their identity, right? And so is there a space that they can go for that? And so, you know, we work really closely with Mass Hire in general anyway. And so we, you know, literally walked them across the street because Berkshire Pride is off of North Street, over to Mass Hire and kind of connected them to resources that way. We're always collaborating with organizations as best as we can. And so Dealers with Freeman Center specifically has a resource list of LGBTQ affirming agencies in the county, and affirming counselors and therapists and psychiatrists and all sorts of providers, right? And so we help them update that as well, and just it's a great resource that we give out to folks as well. And so if someone is isolated, a lot of the times, unfortunately, it does kind of fall on their shoulders to reach out to us. And I don't know if that's part of your question. It can be hard to find someone who is isolated, right, and access them in that way. But that's really the hope, is that if we provide these third spaces, hopefully folks will come out and join us.
We have time for one or two more questions. Or not, that's okay. So in closing, what do each of you want? What is your wish for your organization going forward in your community? And not like $1 million, though, it would help all of us. What is kind of like your wish? I'm saying this, I'm looking at Jess, I'm like, you got your farm. Like, I know that's your wish for so long, so we're gonna have to force you to build on that wish. But we'll start with Sally, like, what's kind of your wish of something that could happen for player mentoring that can help it be even a better community for who it serves?
My wish for Playwright Mentoring Project is eventually to be able to expand it. Also, another 25 years would be phenomenal if we could make that happen.
This is Playwright Mentoring's 25th year this year.
Yeah, we're celebrating 25 years this year. It brings me so much joy, as you can't tell. But yeah, another 25 years and expansion. We have kids starting to come from Lee, so if we could make our way down towards your way, that's the next step for me.
Yep, because just, you know, there's 3 groups here in Pittsfield, 2 up in North Adams, so we've kind of been stagnant with 5 for a while now. Yes.
I feel
A little growth.
a little growth.
And you just said something that needs explanation. Groups?
Oh, yes. So we have 5 groups of 10, usually 10 kids, 2 in North Adams and 3 in Pittsfield, and that is how we create our shows. So our kids come to us. Usually we have kids from from both of your roots and from Berkshire Pride. They come to us from all the schools. We actually just finished our recruitment tour. So we've been going to high school and giving out pamphlets, but they come and are put into a group on a certain day. And with those groups, they create their own show. At the end of the year, we have a PMP fest. And their show is part of that festival. So right now we have 5 mini 25-minute shows part of this festival, right? And in theory, with every group that we add, our festival is a little longer, but a little more beautiful every time. So yeah, that's groups.
What age can they start?
Playwright Mentoring Project serves teenagers from ages 13 to 19. Yeah.
what I'd really like to see for OLLI is to expand into areas where we haven't been, both geographically, socioeconomically, and just in the range of things we do. I think there is an image of OLLI being for outsiders that come in and it's super intellectual, have to have an advanced degree. And I really would like us to shed that image and become more part of the community in general.
Well, she did it again, but OLLI has been around now, we just celebrated our 30th anniversary, but we had a head start, so, just saying. So of course it would be wonderful to say that we'll be around forever, but I do echo what Monica just said, in the sense that unfortunately we have, at least among some people, a reputation for being a more elitist organization, which is not at all our intention. We recently started doing more workshops on, I forget what the right term is, Ray, the life skills, I'll call it that. So we've had workshops on collage making and help me out here, I'm not thinking offhand.
Oh, the train thing we just did, that was
Okay,
cool.
well, there are all
All
different
kinds of things.
all different kinds of things that are not specific. There was an outing to, and a lecture, as I remember.
Yeah,
By
a train, an actual train.
Oh, a train.
Not train.
Train, T-R-A-I-N, right, choo-choo, right. So idea being that on the one hand, as Monica said, we are looking, and that is very much part of our mandate, to become involved with other populations, even within the part of Berkshire County that we're already part of, and of course, as we said, beyond. But we also want to be known for doing things that are not just courses. That's really where I'm going. We want people to think of us, as I was saying initially, as a way to socialize, to meet new friends, to be able to be out in public with people that you might not have met under other circumstances. Just like so many book groups, when I wind up reading a book that I would never have picked up otherwise, because I would never have thought about that particular book or thought that it might be of interest, but it has opened my eyes, and that's what we're hoping that OLLI will do. And especially for those of us that are of a certain age, I won't qualify what that is either. It's nice, and we are looking, part of what we want to do is to become more involved with younger people, so, and do more intergenerational things. So I'm hoping that we'll expand our reach in so many ways.
For Berkshire Pride, I think we're all saying expanding, right, which is definitely true for Berkshire Pride as well. I think historically it's been, because the festival and the parade happen in Pittsfield, a lot of people think of us as Pittsfield Pride, right, even though we're Berkshire Pride because we serve all of the Berkshires. There have been additional little pop-up prides that have started over the years since then, which is great. So there's a pride that happens in Sheffield that's really small and amazing. And then there's one that happens in North Adams as well, which is great. And so really collaborating with them and then continuing to expand into North and South County in terms of just more of the year-round events is something that we're looking for. And also getting into the schools and working with more young folks, because kids are realizing their identity's a lot younger now, and we're getting kids as young as 8 and 9 that are figuring out their identities, who are looking for spaces, right? And there's no space at their school necessarily that feels supportive. And so getting into the schools and starting support groups there is also something that I would be looking for.
I will carry on the expansion theme in the sense, similarly, our market is the Pittsfield Farmers Market, obviously serves a much greater community than just the city of Pittsfield. Our youth crews currently do only serve Pittsfield residents. We have far more applicants than we are able to hire, and we are constantly getting asked about expanding beyond Pittsfield. So the Farm and Education Center will open that door for us. We will be able to work with adults. We will be able to work with, much younger children, and then certainly geographically we'll be able to work beyond Pittsfield. Personally, my wish, my hope, my something I really want to see soon down the road is that our alumni become staff, and we're sort of creating a pathway for that to happen. So, you know, we have 2 alumni now sitting on our board of directors, and I feel really proud of that. And it's really exciting. They have a voice, and they're helping to set the direction of the organization. And the next step is for them to become staff members.
So, because we're peer-driven and peer-led, I can have lots of dreams, but it's really about the collective of the membership. Having said that, what my wish would be, in addition to taking over the entire Market Block building for many levels of things, and I really mean that, is that we do become a community where any members in any part of the community feel welcome and free to come to events we have going on, to say, hey, I know how to knit. How about if I do a Sunday afternoon knitting class, even though I'm not a person in, you know, we're all in some, even if we're in recovery from COVID, we're all in some type of recovery. Life is recovery. Life is always moving, changing, evolving, right? And so I think if I could put that wish on there, it would really be for the entire community to feel that we hope to embrace them also, and that they'll embrace us in return. And the Market Block building.
So, well, thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much for being here, and also mostly thank you for helping build communities in this weird county with all these weird little towns spread out, where isolation is very, very easy. All of you do a lot of great work to hopefully prevent some of that. And thank you, all of you. If you've not seen Primary Trust, it runs through next Sunday. Nope. 2 Sundays from now, the 13th. But thank you, and thank you everyone for being here.